Okay, super short video this week. I have Jeremy Crawford on video giving seemingly two contradictory answers, and this drove me absolutely nuts. So I went to the Origins 2018 live stage advice panel, and I asked him in person to try to resolve this seeming contradiction. And the answer that he gave really sort of leads the way to faster gameplay, higher player satisfaction, and also an increase in ludonarrative harmony, which is just a fancy way of saying making the mechanics more closely mirror the story you're trying to tell. What is this crazy contradiction that I'm talking about? Well, imagine this scenario. How would you as a DM adjudicate? Two characters sit down at a table, stone cold sober, and engage in an arm wrestling match. How do you determine the winner? A large amount of DMs, in fact, I know the exact percent, I ran a poll on Twitter, would say, well, you do a strength athletics check. And whoever wins that contest roll would win the arm wrestling match. And that's a good answer. In fact, we have this clip right here from Jeremy Crawford.
Attentive readers will notice that we very rarely, after the publication of the Player's Handbook, use contested roles in combat situations. It was something we were experimenting with in the PH and have largely phased out. We still use them quite a bit in non-combat situations because they're a great way to resolve things like, arm wrestling or a duel of wits.
But there's another answer, one that I like a lot better.
Yeah, and in fact, our typical DM advice is in an arm wrestling match, the person with the higher strength should just win.
At the panel itself, which I recorded, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the you-know-where under the you-know-whats. Jeremy went on to explain that, yeah, all things being equal, ceteris paribus, the character with the higher strength score would just win. But you can use a contest if something else is happening, if something's intervening that sort of shifts the fates around, little elements of chance or circumstance. Like maybe there's a bard singing a favorite song in a corner. Maybe one of them has had a few too many drinks to make one of the contestants a little groggy. Maybe there's a cute guy across the bar catching one in their eyes. So in these circumstances where the outcome is uncertain, you would just go ahead and use a contested roll. People who think that use a contest most of the time are in fact wrong. We'll get to those air quotes later. The character with the higher strength score just wins. They are in fact stronger. You only introduce the D20 when there's significant variance in the world. So let's expand on this idea, the fact that you can just use a character's ability score to really represent who they are in the world without the D20. Now, people who follow my channel know that I really love the D&D Next playtest. I love the whole process of it and lots of mechanics that it contained. And something that you see early on was a scenario something like this. Imagine you're running down a hallway, you're a strong barbarian, and there's a big oak door in front of you. You walk up and kick it. What's your strength score? 15. The door collapses. Now, imagine that scenario today. I think a lot of DMs would just have that player roll a strength check to see if they can kick down the door. And so the player would have to stop, roll the die, add the number on their sheet, and then tell the DM. And that really sort of breaks up the pacing, it slows everything down. It doesn't really add a whole lot to the game. That character chose to have a high strength score because they wanted to feel strong. So why not just let them? You can do this with like a rogue too. Let's say that there is an icy beam that's connecting one rooftop to another. The thief with dexterity 18 can just make it across, but everyone with dexterity 17 or lower has to roll. So the character who wanted to be nimble and quick gets to feel that way, and they get to feel special, while everyone else still gets that moment of tension about whether or not they're going to fall. So you can go ahead and use ability scores in lots of things in your game. Think of them as the passive scores for everything. If you have a high intelligence, you know that piece of ancient lore. If you have a high charisma, the shopkeeper just goes ahead and gives you a friendly discount. It will make your game flow faster because there won't be so many interrupting dice rolls. And it also stops some absurdity bombs from happening. Oh, you're trying to push the stone pillar, make a strength roll. The huge barbarian with his braces of ogre strength trying to push a statue. Go ahead and make a strength roll, and he gets a 1. Now, a clever DM is going to say, oh, you're back! You forgot about that old injury. But that gag only works so many times. It's a lot more satisfying just to say, hey, wait a second, you're a strong character, go ahead and just succeed. You saw this a lot in AD&D too, like 2nd edition. They say, anyone who has a dexterity less than 14 has a 30% chance of falling into this hole. And so it's more of a traditional mechanic, and I think it really adds to speed of play. And it makes your characters makes your players feel like their characters match what they're trying to play. It increases our ludonarrative harmony. So let's talk about why it's important for me to know what the right answer is. After all, I'm the DM. The DM runs the game, not the rules. The rules are there as a butler. They're there to help serve up a nice experience, but they're not there to control the house. So why is it really important for me to know what the rules are? I like doing it because that's one of the ways that I engage with the game. As the DM, that's one of the ways that I can have fun with D&D. Is I really like understanding the rules and knowing how they can apply. I have a great legal mind. I could have been a brilliant lawyer, but I wanted to use my powers for good instead, so I became a DM. And so really understanding how things should work gives me a lot more permission to break them. When I go ahead and make homebrew rules, I write them out in a nice format, and I hand it out to my players very specifically, so we can go ahead and refer them back to them later on. And it's also nice to have a good unified sense of what the rules are for everyone at the table, so we all have this shared sense of fairness, which is really, really important to building a group cohesion. Yeah, so that's the video, folks. Like I said, it's kind of a short one. Just a really cool idea, I thought, that makes your players feel like their archetypes are being fulfilled better and increases our ludonarrative harmony. That if a character has a high strength, let them do strong things. If a character has a high intelligence, just let them be smart. Don't make them roll for these sorts of things. And the character with the higher strength score just wins in an arm wrestling match, unless there's something else going on, in which case you would use a contested roll, because the D20 represents the whims of fate and uncertainty. Yeah, if you like this video, you know what to do. And as always, let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, of course, like if there's a significant chance of failure or when I don't get the door down the first go, has some huge consequence, then yeah, go ahead and use a roll.